are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome into this special edition of Locked On Auburn. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby. He is Daryl Dapprich. And Alvin Henderson has flipped from Penn State and is now a part of Auburn's 2025 class. What a Friday. Happy Alvin Day to all who celebrate.
A great open, by the way. That's the first thing I thought of, was a little chipmunk in the Alvin sweater with the A on it. And it's just a great day that kind of, it does not feel anticlimactic. I think some people felt like it would be because they knew this was coming, but it doesn't. It's a great get for Auburn. It's a great day. It's wonderful to have a running back like that in the stable. And, we felt like it was coming. It's the worst kept secret, but it is what it is. And until it happens, you celebrate it when it does. And this is a great get for Auburn in a position of need in this upcoming class.
Yeah, it was announced via a Hayes Fawcett of On3 graphic. And in the post that he said, the quote from Alvin is, "I'm staying home. Auburn family, thank you for the support and dedication. Can't wait to make this great state happy." So I love it. I mean, there's just so much to love about this. And you talked about it on this morning's edition of Locked On Auburn, Daryl, where we've been talking about Alvin Henderson forever. In fact, at auburndaily.com, when we searched his name, because we knew it, we had like pre-written an Alvin Henderson commitment. Well, we actually pre-written multiple. And we had one written last summer. I mean, that's how long we've been talking about Alvin Henderson potentially being able to commit to the Auburn Tigers and it being realistic. And it finally happened. And I think there's two sides of this coin. One, don't lose sight of the fact of how special of a running back he is, because we were all talking about him last summer of, oh my goodness, it would be a dream if we could get that kid down from Elba to come to Auburn. And then obviously today that becomes a reality. But the other side of this is, man, like some of this just being an Auburn fan for my entire life, but how many times have we kind of been in it or like courting? It almost feels like dating some guy and they just string us along on and on and on. And then they go somewhere else at the last minute. It's just nice to have a coaching staff that didn't back off of them, that stayed true to building the relationship and recognizing that Alvin Henderson had a chance to come to Auburn and now he's committed.
I think people don't need to gloss over what an important point it is that you started with and underestimate the fact that a year and a half ago when his name started surfacing, it was like, this could be one of the best running backs Auburn's ever pursued. I mean, the boog was at the highest level it can be. Totally. And with familiarity, like I mentioned this morning, over a year and a half, it kind of tempers that a little bit. We need to go back and remember what it was like and what kind of running back he is when people were talking about, oh my gosh, you could get Jeremiah Cobb and then Alvin Henderson 2 years later. We're set at running back. I mean, that was the kind of talk that was coming out when his name was mentioned. It seemed almost a little unattainable, a little pie in the sky. Could he come here? Oh, he's even considering us. Great. And then it becomes, when is he going to commit to Auburn? That goes to show you where this program has come under Hugh Freeze.
Well, and there was some talk because he loved Cadillac. He had such a great relationship with Carnell Williams, and there were some people that kind of wrote off the recruitment after Auburn and Carnell parted ways. And Auburn and the staff stayed after him. They kept him coming to campus seemingly every other day. Every time we were there, you made the joke earlier that we've seen him on campus more than Aubie. But it's true. I mean, they did this the right way. And I love that they didn't back off of him after he committed to Penn State. In fact, now that he's here, now that we've arrived at this destination, I think you can actually make the argument that it's better that he first committed to Penn State and then we got the flip because, Penn State, they're doing things right up there. They're being successful. So it's always great to kind of take players from top programs. But Alvin coming to Auburn, we've talked about it for forever, but we can't stress it enough. This guy is so good. He's so talented. He's dynamic. I don't care the level of competition. His stats are stupid. They are insane. Every time this guy touches the football, there's a chance for something magical to happen. So Great member of the class. No question about it.
Classification doesn't define greatness in a situation where a kid like this has all the intangibles.
Ooh,
I don't
put
care.
that on a t-shirt, man.
Yeah, I don't
Let's
care.
go.
I don't care what A he plays under. The important thing is it's going to have the AU on the helmet, and the guy has just got intangibles at whatever level. I think there's two lessons to be learned here. Number one, if you're a coaching staff or you're somebody that follows this coaching staff, don't ever feel like it's over, that they're going to give up on a kid just because another school recruits them or they commit to that school. This coaching staff is very, very relentless in that. And then second, on a smaller scale, as a fan base, sometimes we encourage people enjoy this process as much as this kid did. I mean, Alvin Henderson enjoyed the recruiting process. We get so caught up in, he committed. Just relax, pump the brakes, understand it's a long way until December, and enjoy the ride. Don't start, ripping the kid and getting on social media, and because it could come back to bite you in the butt when he comes back to commit to your school later on.
Totally. And it depends on the kid, right? Some kids are going to listen to noise more than others. This is one where I think Auburn just being all about Alvin, both the fan base and the coaching staff, it paid off because we all knew. I mean, I think you and I did the show right after he committed to Penn State. It was like, I'm not buying it.
Exactly.
We never did. We never did. In fact, we did a show, I think it was this week, where it was like titled, "It's time for Alvin Henderson to flip from Penn State to Auburn." And there were a lot of folks that like, oh, there's no way he's Penn State. Everybody said he's locked in. He said he locked into Penn State. He's like, no, like I just didn't buy it, Daryl. It just didn't make sense. This guy loves Auburn and he loves this staff and he's here all the time. And there's folks, the Walker show just commented like, I didn't see this coming. It's like, I don't know how, I don't know if this is Auburn folks being like not used to winning at this level on the recruiting trail or what, because I don't know how so many Auburn folks didn't see this coming, because this is such a strong staff when it comes to building relationships and pursuing these guys that are top their board. And Alvin is their running back. They believed in him early on and they've pursued him. And I know other names have popped up, but those other names only popped up once Alvin committed to Penn State and they needed to kind of force some leverage, and they did it. It worked, I guess. So to me, this is just such a home run for so many different reasons.
Here's a little fun story to kind of really highlight what you're saying and to kind of put the spotlight on this. We're at spring practice and we're watching Auburn go through spring practice, and the buzz starts to occur that Alvin Henderson's on the cusp of committing to Miami, which surprised a lot of us. And I look over and Alvin Henderson is on the sidelines watching Auburn practice. And I'm going, wait a minute. Those two don't add up. I mean,
yeah.
And then he didn't, and he ended up going but at that point I knew, as much as he was coming to campus, I felt like it's just a matter of time. But that's the kind of stuff that he stayed connected with the staff, and the staff stayed connected with him. Now, it's got to be a two-way street. If the staff would have reached out to him and he would have not taken their calls and ghosted them and just didn't come back on campus, then it's a whole different deal. It had to be a two-way street. He had to be, reciprocate and be receptive to that.
Sure. Does Auburn have a top 5 class now? One outlet says so. We'll discuss and have some fun in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at GameTime. Daryl, can you imagine? Can you imagine buying tickets anywhere else? I can't. I use GameTime whenever I'm buying a ticket for anything. Daryl, you do the same. There's so many benefits to using GameTime. It's less expensive. You've got a better view of your seat. You actually know what you're buying, and it's easy. It's right on your phone. So right now, use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off for your first purchase over at GameTime. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. When you look at where Auburn ranks now after landing Alvin Henderson, and once again, let's just say it again, because I'm not crazy about Penn State. They flipped him from Penn State. They didn't just land Alvin Henderson. They took him from Penn State, which is huge. On 247, Auburn now has the 6th ranked class in the 2025 rankings. On three, it's their lowest. They're 7. Lowest is 7. And then on Rivals, Auburn, according to Rivals right now, with 16 commits, Auburn has the number 5 class in the country. Daryl, your thoughts?
I've always said that when you go for recruiting,
in this case,
this is like could you imagine? I'm going to start with, I've always said, and then you fill in the blanks. Look, and the fun part about this is we haven't hit the ceiling yet. I'm celebrating this. I'm like that coach that says, hey, we've got to play in the championship game, but we're going to celebrate tonight's Final Four victory first and enjoy this. Let's enjoy this, but understand where this is where the trajectory and where this is trending is if Auburn hits on a couple of other targets that they're crystal ball to get, this could end up a top 3 class. Okay. So that's uncharted territory. I mean, that is really, really, and so, yeah, I mean, it's big. The rankings and the stars and the national look, you said it 2 or 3 times in the last 2 weeks, and it is the buzzword that I'm hanging my hat on most, and that is perception. When you start getting players of this caliber in state and it starts moving the needle on your rankings and your class rankings, it's because of what you are perceived to be doing on the recruiting trail. And greatness begots greatness. Other kids want to jump in the boat. They see it. They go, oh, and so that's what happens. And I think the ceiling is incredible. And we're just starting to see where this could go in the next 2 months. And I'm serious. At the end of July, me and you could be hoarse because we're talking so much about the recruits and the high-level recruits that are signing with Auburn.
It's going to be a lot. So some people are saying we're 4th on 247 because it hasn't updated yet, which is true. That hasn't updated yet on mine because they only have us at 15 commits and Alvin is 16. So there's a chance we're top 5 on both. But yeah, I mean, the fact that the conversation is happening
and what you just said, the number, I mean, I hate to interrupt. So don't forget the 16 commits at this point before even Big Cat weekend. Auburn's got 16 commits, which is such I mean, that number, you finish out of class usually with 21, 22, and Auburn's almost 3/4 of the way there. And now they can go get the big dogs, hunt the big dogs.
Yeah, Devin's saying it brings us to 244 points the way they keep score. And so that would bring us up to 4, passing Georgia for what it's worth.
Ooh, rearview mirror, baby.
I mean, it's so great. It's so great what's happening at Auburn. And I put out a clip. I put out a clip of us talking about in-state recruiting earlier in the week and how it's just changed. And obviously Alvin is a huge part of that. He's the number 1 back in the state. You want the number 1 back in the state. I mean, that's common sense. And to me, I know there's folks ahead of Auburn right now. And of course the Bammers found that and said, well, Alabama's got the number 2 or number 3 class, depending on where you look. It's like, that's fine. That's not what we're saying here. Auburn is rising. Auburn is rising dramatically. This isn't about anyone else. This is about Auburn outperforming what they've done ever on the recruiting trail. That's what this is about. And other people want other fan bases, to all of you here watching or listening, whether it's live or delayed, to all of you, like the other fan bases are going to try to pull these, but whatever ranking, whatever factoid or statistic. And you look at them in the eye and say, no, this is about Auburn. The success that Auburn is having right now with flipping guys like Alvin Henderson and getting potentially 6 or 7 of the top 10 players in the state and even more in the top 15. That's about Auburn doing things that we've dreamt of them doing. This isn't about anything else. Sorry you're insecure, other fan bases. Sorry you're starting to get a little concerned about what Auburn's doing.
Yep.
Worried. This is about Auburn. Sorry you're not a part of this.
I've said for a long time, you're never going to escape the comparison when your biggest rival had the run that they did and was consistently having top 2, top 3 recruiting classes. But I've always said, don't let Auburn get in that same rarefied air where they get in the top 5, because at that point, who cares? It's about Auburn. If Auburn's 4 and Alabama's 2, I don't care. It's like having $1 million or $1.5 million. whatever.
Yeah.
How much is, I mean, yeah, it'd be nice to have the number 2 class or number 1 class. But when you start getting the playing field even as far as recruiting classes and talent coming on board, because I still believe that one of the biggest strengths that we didn't get to see last year in Hugh Freeze as a coach was his development and his play calling, because he was so busy in recruiting. And now that he's got all these studs and these assassins recruiting for him, play calling, develop this coaching staff. This is what you're right there now in the top 5, top 4. Watch out. I mean,
Let's have just a quick. It doesn't have to be quick. It can be as long as you want. But just some love for Derek Nix right now, because I mentioned earlier in the show that some people wrote off our chances with Alvin because of the relationship he had with Caddy, and Derek Nix has come in here and he has done nothing but recruit at a tremendously high level and hit the ground running since he's been hired. And Caleb Jones of Rivals put out a tweet with a link to his story. Be sure to check it out. This whole recruiting process, these last 6 months, he's shown me why I was his number 1 priority. And when a player feels that way, when a player feels like I'm number 1, there's so much talent in the state. There's so much talent in the Southeast. Auburn is recruiting more states than they seemingly ever have. And when a player's there, especially when it's a guy who wants to, feel valued like any recruit in the process, that's so important. And hats off to Derek Nix, because there's been multiple recruits now that have said that about him.
Which is such a great get. And it goes to show you why Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin was so reluctant and so upset to get rid of, for Derek Nix to leave. I think he's a tremendous asset. And yet we still haven't even seen what his on the field impact could make. Off the field, we hear that over and over. You're right. These kids really connect with him. Yeah. They really love him. And so I think it's the perfect storm right now. So yeah, you're right for crediting that, and for the consistent communication that they continue to have, and not writing anybody off.
Sure. Something I've already seen. I've seen it in the live chat. I've seen it on Twitter. I've seen it in the Discord of folks saying like, well, yeah, he's committed, but he's going to flip 2 or 3 more times. Like, stop it. Get out of here with that. One, like, would you rather him not flip? Like, what? Like, why are you in here then if you don't think it's legitimate? Like, if you don't think there's a chance that he comes here? You very rarely see a kid flip more than once. That's just right. That's pretty unique. You do see it. You certainly do see it. But I bet, I don't know Alvin. I don't know him personally at all. But I bet there's a sense of relief that this is finally done. I'm just guessing. I'm just guessing that he is feeling relief that this is done.
Well, I think he feels like he's at home. We keep talking about how many times he comes to campus. You don't do that unless you want to be somewhere that you're. I mean, when you desire to be at a place, the biggest indicator is how long you stay at that place or hang around. And he feels like he's home. He felt like he was home, even when he was committed to Penn State. He still was around campus a lot. So I think you're right about the relief factor, that it's behind him. That he can just focus on all that, the attention, but it's just now it's done. It's a relief, and let's just enjoy. I think he's going to enjoy the next couple months with his decision and just kind of basking in the glow of that.
Right. Let's look at the top 10 in the state, shall we? Auburn. It seems like there's a lot of talk about Jared Smith, Derek Smith. I don't know if I'm fully there on those two. Obviously, Naheem Offord is a top player. I think Auburn lands Anquan Fagans, who is number 4. Eric Winters is 5. He's committed. Zion Grady. I think Auburn's in a great spot with Zion Grady. He's 6th. Leak Autry is 7th. He's committed. This is all according to On 3. Jacaleb Falk is 8. He's committed. KJ Lacey is 9. That gets really interesting if Auburn kind of stalls with Juju. And then Micah DeBose is 10, but I don't think Auburn's really going after Micah DeBose at this point. Are you hearing similar things?
I am too. Yeah, I'm hearing similar things too.
Yeah, then you look at Alvin, who's 13, Jordan Crawford, who's 14th, which seems vastly underrated, by the way.
Goodness. Yeah.
Carday Smith, who's 15th in the state. And you just look at all of these players that Auburn is stockpiling within the state. And this is the thing that really ticks off the Bammers. And this is but look at what we're doing. Nobody's ever consistently won without winning and recruiting their state. That's true. That is true. I don't care how big your brand is nationally. And even like when Alabama went on their run and they did recruit nationally, that's fine. They still won their state, and they're not winning their state right now.
Great point.
Auburn is winning the state right now. Don't let anybody tell you anything otherwise.
What I was going to say when you were talking, what popped in my mind was when they make that argument that, yeah, we're getting kids out of New Jersey and California. That's great. But back a few years ago, they were getting those kids and the kids from the state of Alabama.
Right.
So you made it, you took, once again, you like read my mind, a little mind melt there.
So in sync.
Yeah. And I was thinking the same thing. The difference is, yeah, they're getting those kids, but now Auburn's getting the highly rated Alabama kids and can still dip into Florida and Georgia and get some stud ponies, and went into Mississippi and got some players that were high rated Mississippi players. So, yeah, I mean, they were getting both. They were getting all. And so when you take part of that piece of the puzzle or that equation away, yeah, you still got the national recruiting thing. But when you had national and regional and state, local, now the local's gone and it's just national, there's got to be a little bit of a drop off there. I don't care what anybody says. I know the ratings won't reflect that because they'll still be third, second, whatever. But that's going to keep Auburn in the top 5. So,
Locked On Nittany Lions he does an outstanding job. Zach Sako is the host. He's been on the show. He does a fantastic job, and I think he's on it. And we've talked about Alvin pretty much every day for the last few weeks. And his show this morning, Locked On Nittany Lions, be sure to go check it out and give him love. Don't talk smack. Give him love because he's great at what he does. The title of his show is Penn State Has an NIL Problem, not a recruiting problem. And that might be true. I don't know. I don't cover Penn State. But the fact of the matter is Auburn does not have an NIL problem. And whenever other schools do have NIL problems and Auburn does not, you get stuff like this to happen.
I'm going to push back on that a little bit. I know you hate when I bring up my former homeland, but it's relevant to this conversation. I'm a native Pennsylvanian. That's where I was born. No way does Penn State have I'm just telling you, I'm not, from the guys that I talked to before, that was the Penn State beat writer, Penn State does not have to compete with anybody in the state, including Pitt, for NIL money. A majority of the people in Pittsburgh that are heavy shakers and movers were Penn State guys and give money to Penn State. There's no way the only state university in Pennsylvania that's the big one has an NIL problem. They don't. This has nothing to do with NIL. And I know,
I think it does. I think it does.
Yeah, I don't. Now, okay, maybe Auburn outbid Penn State. That doesn't mean Penn State has an NIL problem. Maybe they chose not to. But I'm telling you, Penn State is very, very rich in what they can give kids with NIL, period. I
just think from a perception standpoint, once again, recruiting is perception. If there's a flip, that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like to folks who are following along.
Unless this kid planned all along to not not go to Penn State, to commit to Penn State, but always knew he was going to go to Auburn and it was going to be a flip thing.
Right. Is that an important call?
Nope. I had it on. I had it on.
Just
private.
Making sure. We can end it at any point. Just making sure.
I had it on private, but sometimes you can still push through. Do not
making
disturb.
Sure. Okay, so let's talk about the future of Auburn's running back situation, and then let's pivot to who could possibly be next. So the future now looks like the expected returning players after this season. Obviously, I think Auburn feels good about the running backs this season. After this season, Damari can return and Jeremiah Cobb can return. Let's assume they both come back. Let's assume they both return. I think that's more of a stretch than some people do, but I also didn't expect all of them back this year, just to be honest. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. So you've got Cobb and Austin in no particular order. You have Alvin Henderson in 2025. Is the other back in this class Chroma? Is it Shakai Mills-Knight? Or is it DeJuan Morris, the USC commit? Or is it a transfer portal guy to be named later?
It'll be interesting to see what Chroma does now. If there's a a shift in him going, well, Alvin Henderson's there and I wanted to be the number one back. And I don't know if that's going to happen. That'll be interesting. But I think that if Auburn has a chance to get Chroma or Mills Knight, they will, because they're both big backs. Sure. You've got your smaller back. So you've got to get one of those two. I just feel like it's imperative because that gives you two backs. I feel like you got to get three. But what I want to see is, does this put off or threaten Chroma at all? Because he was going to come to Auburn as long as Henderson was at Penn State. We'll see. Different type of back, will be used differently. But some of those guys, man, those alphas, they just want to be the guy. And, next year, you're right. You've got three guys that are really good running backs. He would make four. I don't know. It remains to be seen, but Auburn's got to get one of them. I mean, there's no doubt. And I prefer, and they got to get one of the bigger backs.
Mm-hmm. Jacob in the chat points this out, and he is correct. So 247 has updated now, and Auburn is the number 4 class according to 247. Number 5 according to Rivals, and is it 8 on 3? 7 on 3.
That didn't move the needle at all
on 3.
Yeah.
No, because none of Auburn's players on 3, like, they're always lowest. Even oh my gosh, Oklahoma tackle. Blah, 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 blah. Broderick Scholl, he's like their number 19th player, but he's a 4-star. So they just need to re-roll their rankings. I think that would help, but they're just not doing that yet. So incredible. Yeah, I'm with you. I think my gut says Chroma is less likely now. I don't think Auburn's out of it by any stretch of the imagination, because I don't know how these kids are so smart, Daryl. I can't imagine if you're Chroma or any running back recruit that Auburn calls, you've got to know they're taking 2. So if you were interested a week ago, you had to know this was going to happen at some point. So my gut says it hurts the chances, but logically, my brain says it shouldn't impact it that much.
No, because you're right. I mean, any running back knows, anybody in that class knows that they were not going to be the only running back taken. I guess the only thing is, what level of running back was Auburn going to get? Again, if I'm Chroma, I look at the type of running back. That's a great
Alvin and the Flip Monks.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
I saw that earlier. I thought that's a great one. But if you look at and say, okay, the type of back Auburn took is different than me and has a different skill set than me. If I'm Chroma talking here, then it doesn't bother me. If I'm Morris, maybe it does because they're so similar with skill sets.
Right. Yeah. To me, I want to take one more, and probably the order I would want is Chroma, Morris, Mills Knight. That'd probably be my order. I'm not too passionate about that one way or the other, though. That's just kind of where I'm at with it. And then I would want to get a transfer guy in December. That would be my wish list, I guess, as far as the future of Auburn running back.
If you take 2, you're going to need a transfer, no doubt. If you take 3, I don't think you need one. And I mean, you have talked about this before.
But I think you need a transfer in December if, for whatever to protect you for if
one of them jumps,
one of the top 2 jumps, whether it's Damari or Cobb after spring, and they're like, oh, they're telling us it's split, but it really isn't, kind of thing. It protects you for them if they move on.
It's going to be tough. I mean, it's going to have to be a special kind of back that wants to come here and say, totally. Hey, come on and be our 4th back. I mean, because if you got Chroma, Alvin Henderson, and either,
but it may not be your 4th back. It may be your 3rd with the chance to be 2nd if somebody leaves.
Well, I'm saying if let's just say Austin left and it's Cobb, Henderson, Chroma, you think a transfer portal kid's going to play over any of those 3?
Sure,
it's a tough sell.
Size matters, role matters too. If they're a kick returner or something, I think that's important. Also, Brian spent a lot of time talking about this on Thursday's Locked on Auburn. You don't want freshmen coming in and pass blocking on 3rd down. You don't want that.
Good point.
So do you get a larger back? Does that allow you to kind of get Morris and then get a larger back through the portal for that role? You can pitch that, I think, in the portal. It's you may be our 3rd back or 4th back, but you're our best option in 3rd down. Like, that's not a crazy thing to pitch.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I didn't think about the pass blocking aspect of it, picking up blitzers and such.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see. Who could be next, Daryl? Who could be next? I know everybody wants Juju. I don't think Juju's next. We know Scroggins, he's put this out on socials. He's announcing on the 25th, I believe. So that's 4 days from now. I can't imagine it's anybody else other than him.
That's exactly who I was going to say. 4 days from now, Scroggins will probably
live
be
chat.
next.
Let us know who's the next to commit. Genuinely curious. Go ahead, Daryl.
And then I think one more could pop in June, and then you're starting to get into July, where there's could be 3 or 4 more that go.
3 or 4 more in July.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
What a great spot to be in. Fagans, I think, goes in the
Right.
next month or so. I think Zion Grady comes in the next month or so.
There's some 2026 kids too. That
Toodle, sure.
Toodle, yep.
Tank is part of it. I don't know his timeline. Toodle's announcing on the 4th, July 4th. And I think there's somebody else announcing on the 4th, and I can't remember who that is.
Yeah, I can't either.
But I feel like there's somebody else. Might be Grady, actually, now that I think about it. I'm not sure. But regardless, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun for sure. So, yeah, most people are saying Scroggins. I think it's a good guess. I think that is a good guess. A few Jujus, man, that'd be so fun, but I just don't. He's going to Colorado this weekend, so it doesn't make sense for him to do anything now.
Right.
I don't think we figure out exactly what Auburn's going to do at quarterback till the end of July.
Me too.
That's kind of my gut feeling on that. I think we're
That's
about
my
4, 5, 6 weeks away from that.
Yep. I thought the same thing popped into my head. End of July, there should be a quarterback in this class.
Yeah. Yeah. And Juju on Big Cat. A few people are saying that. That'd be fun. That would be totally fun. National news on Big Cat, much like they did a year ago with Perry flipping from Bama. It's just a great situation. It's a great situation being 16 dudes, 16 studs already in this class. It's fun. This is fun.
Great day.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Fagans is announcing on July 29th. That's right. I
June
forgot
29th. June 29th or July 29th?
I think it's into July.
Okay.
I think this is right.
Okay.
Jureo. Thank you for that comment. Appreciate that, because that is correct. I forgot about that. So awesome. Fun Friday afternoon stream. Daryl, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Follow me on X, DAP6410. I'm on Instagram, Daryl Dapp. And then with you Wednesdays and Fridays, and hopefully a lot over the next month when we get these live announcements of these great recruits committing.
Yes. Please like the video. Please subscribe. And we will see you on Monday. This has been Locked On Auburn.